Hey, good morning. I messed up the thumbnail. I forgot to have my camera plugged in. So, if you're new to me, my name's Michelle Wolf, obviously. I keep forgetting to say this stuff at the beginning of the videos, but you can find out about all the things I offer for personal development and spiritual and personal growth on my website at thatmichellewolf.com. And if you like what you're hearing on this channel, and there are tons of videos from the past that you can look at, please hit the subscribe button down below and share it to your peeps. YouTube does a lot better, of course. They push to build subscriber numbers. So if you like what you're doing, subscribe. That helps me, that helps YouTube, helps keep this whole game going. Okay, so I one of the things I do is a method of energetic healing called Forest Reiki. If you're familiar with Reiki, it is that same concept, but it feels very, very different. And it involves partnering with trees and plant consciousness. Um, and in my groups, so I teach those classes. You can get it by recording, and also periodically I'll teach it live by live stream. And then there's an ongoing Facebook group for graduates, people who've done level 1 and level 2. And you can get certified, but it's not required, of course. And not everyone who's in the graduates group is certified, but they've had level 1 and level 2. Good morning. Anyway, so someone mentioned all the energy moving through the collective. So this feeling of being very aware of all the stuff going on in the world and a lot of turmoil. And by the way, one of the other things I do is human design. And if you're a projector or reflector in human design, or you have a lot of undefined centers in your chart, you may be aware of this collective turmoil too. So anyway, someone mentioned that in the Forest Reiki graduates group, and enough people responded like, me too, me too, me, yes, 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 that I thought, well, let's just talk about it today. Because good morning. So it's what's important is to really trust your body when a lot of stuff is going on. And how do you know when a lot of stuff is going on? Maybe you suddenly stop sleeping well. Something changes, like you're clicking along, keeping up with your exercise. All of a sudden, you can't get off the couch. You're eating well, whatever your eating plan is, and then all of a sudden, you've got this weird random craving, or you only want to eat one food. So, like toddlers. Honestly, if we would eat like toddlers more, we would be just fine. Toddlers know. They're smart. They're wise little beings in tiny little bodies. But we sometimes are being triggered, and sometimes we need to cope with higher carbs. Sometimes I believe when we're doing a lot of shifting and we are really focusing on changing the patterns in our brain, referencing all the things that say when you change your thoughts, you change the chemical output in your brain, and you can actually form new neural pathways. Sometimes when toddlers are going through big brain stuff, they want nothing but carbs, fruit, sugar, whatever they can get their hands on, grains, bananas, like they want a lot of carbs. So I think that holds true for us too. If we're doing a lot of internal work and we're literally restructuring our brain, which we know we can do, it makes sense to me that you would want more carbs. If you're not a big carb eater, maybe you are suddenly craving apples. I went through a spell where I couldn't get enough apples. I was eating 2 or 3 a day. And I do intermittent fasting, so I have either one meal a day or 2 meals and a snack in like a 4-hour window. Good morning, good morning. So in my window, I was eating a lot of apples and a lot of salads. Then I went through a spell where for 3 weeks solid, I ate nothing but cheese quesadillas. This is not food that I eat. I don't eat wheat and I don't eat cheese. And if I eat a tortilla on a regular basis, I'm going to suffer for it. And yet, for this 3 weeks, I ate nothing but cheese quesadillas, and I never had the bloated wheat response. What's that about? That makes me really wonder how many food sensitivities are emotion based, thought based. I'm not discounting the pain, believe me, I know. But is our belief system, is our fear of pain, maybe we went through a thing and our body was rejecting wheat for a while. And then now when we go to eat it, we have that thought in our head that it's going to hurt us. Does that set us up for pain? I don't know. These are rhetorical questions. I'm certainly not a nutritionist. I'm no dietitian. I'm no expert on food. I'm just sharing with you what I've experienced. So hopefully it will help you trust yourself. So 3 weeks of cheese quesadillas, no dairy response, no wheat response. And I just rolled with it. It was confusing to me. I didn't really understand it. It didn't make sense, but I just trusted it. And it went away. And I think I gained like a couple of pounds during that 3 weeks, and that weight went right away too. Not worrying about it, just trusting. And then I went back to my regular diet of meat and vegetables and a little fruit, not a lot of fruit. And then I stayed there for a long time until recently when I got on an Oreo cookie binge. Again, I don't eat wheat. I generally don't eat sugar. And I couldn't get enough of Oreos. I don't eat Oreo cookies even when I was eating sugar because they're so intense that they make me feel nauseous pretty quick. Like after 3 or 4 Oreos, I'm good and teetering on the edge of nausea. So they're not my go to food. So I really couldn't figure that out either. And so I thought, well, maybe I just need more carbs again. So one day I did apples again, and that didn't really do it for me. And so I did a fruit salad, and that didn't do it for me. So I went back, and I just could not stop thinking about Oreos. So I went on an Oreo binge during my window. So not like eating Oreos till I threw up. I wasn't having any physical response to it. So again, I was not having the negative things that I associate with sugar, and was not having any gut response to the wheat in the cookies. I can't explain that. And I went from eating an enormous amount of Oreos along with my meat and salad within my window. I was eating until my body said, stop. Was really listening. So I wasn't watching TV. I wasn't, talking on the phone. I wasn't reading while I was eating. Because if I'm eating weird food, uh, because I have a history of binging and overeating, I don't want to open the door to that. So I pay attention. Like, okay, if you want Oreos and you want 25 of them, that's fine. But I'm going to sit here and we're all, all of my parts are going to sit here and be together with this thing that we're doing. So I ate like an enormous amount of Oreos, like almost a full package. And I can't even believe that. Like that, a full package of Oreos is huge, huge. And I ate like 2 tubes of it. No reaction. As soon as my body said stop, I stopped. That happened again the next day and the next day. I'm starting to think that the people at the store that's closest to me were gonna say something. Like who is this woman? They know me because I'm. It's the store that's closest to us, but they didn't say anything except the woman said, "Have you tried the carrot cake Oreos?" Like I guess she thought I needed some variety because I was buying the same package of Oreo cookies every single day. But I was like, no, it's these. These are the ones I want right now. And then the next day after that, it was less, and then it was less, and then it was less, and then it stayed to like a big handful. So let's say like 8 for this has been going on for probably 2 or 3 weeks. So then it was like 8 for a few days, and then it was 3, and then it was back to at the thought of eating an Oreo. Now, what is our body doing? Who knows? But is our body smarter than our mind most of the time? Yes. So the other way this can show up, and now I'm like, no Oreos. Like yesterday, I didn't want any. The day before, I didn't want any. But when you open the door to permission and to trust your body, you don't have to get in a war with yourself. What? You don't eat sugar? What? You don't eat wheat? What kind of health focused person are you if you're eating like 2 tubes of Oreos a day? What's wrong with you? All that kind of chatter. I had none of that, but I've been practicing this for a while. So if you're going to move into trusting your body, you're going to have to be aware that you're going to have a lot of thoughts about it, a lot of the diet industry brainwashing that as women we've been raised with, and some men too really respond to weight issues. But that chatter is going to be there. And honestly, the best person to read up about that is Janine Roth. I don't even know. Let's see if I can even put that. Can I leave a comment on my own? And now I can't spell her name. Janine Roth's book, Women, Food, and God. Whether you believe in God or not, it's not really about that. It's about that connection to some sort of spirituality. Let's see if this works. Bink. Yay. Okay. So Women, Food, and God, I've read it 3 times. That really helped me move into trusting my body's asks for food. I've experimented and experimented and experimented, and intermittent fasting works the best for me. I feel good. I sleep good. Everything is good if I stay to the 1 meal a day or a 2 to 4 hour window. So, but I totally trust what happens in that window. Like I said earlier, I'm repeating myself. So think about that when you are having weird cravings, and see if your weird cravings correspond to something you're working with internally from childhood. Like a long time ago, I was working through some childhood stuff and I was hardcore craving Kentucky Fried Chicken. I went through, thank God, a very short spell of that. But that was like a childhood food that was associated with some stuff I was working through. And again, I trusted it. I ate it a few times and then I was done with it and haven't had it since. Sometimes our bodies will use those chemical responses and the recreating the act of something that we did at a certain point in time as a way of sort of clearing the decks, I think. Plus, my mom reminded me that the teacher we learned from, Joanne Bond, used to say that the body would use old foods that we used to eat as a way of moving something energetically out of the cells, flipping the switches in your DNA, and to just trust it, especially if it's weird and bizarre. Because why would you randomly wake up one day and have to have Oreos when Oreos were never your food? Like Oreos were not if you have we all have preferential food, right? So if I was going to give myself permission to eat 5,000 calories in 2 hours, logically, I would go for ice cream or, specifically Ben and Jerry's Cherry Garcia or Haagen-Dazs chocolate. Like those were my 2 bingey foods. Okay, yeah. So Debbie says she's been craving Oscar Mayer lunch meat. What? Yes, like I'm sure that's not something you eat every day. A few weeks prior to the Oreo thing, I went through a bacon spell. I haven't eaten bacon since 2008. Like I avoid pork products completely. And I ate a whole pound of bacon and 4 biscuits and had no response. That's what really has me fascinated. My stomach didn't bloat. Yeah, who eats Oscar Mayer lunch meat, right? If you're not 5 and being forced to eat it. So the chicken, the bacon, and then that happened twice, done. Now I'm back to the thought of pork makes me want to vomit. Like I really don't like pork. And Oreos were not my binge food. So graham crackers was a binge food. Cherry Garcia was a binge food. Tortilla chips and queso or salsa was a binge food. Never Oreos. It's like I said, they made me sick. So the only thing I could figure out is that they were a great way to get a lot of carbs and something maybe in the cocoa powder. I don't really know because I don't really care. It doesn't matter. Periodically, our bodies do strange things. And I really feel like if we will just flow with what they're doing, the it can accomplish whatever it's trying to accomplish without the negative side effects that we would experience on any other day eating lunch meat or Oreos or whatever. Okay, so the bacon thing. The other way that might show up, somebody was saying some kind of weird food in the Force Reiki graduates group, and I can't remember now what it was. But oh, one of the women's has an egg thing. She loves eggs, but she'll go through, I mean, she doesn't like it. I can't remember. Anyway, periodically, the thought of eating an egg makes her want to vomit. And then other times, she's totally fine with eggs. So, could our food sensitivities be that? Sometimes our bodies want and need grains, sometimes they don't. But if we have that fear and negative thought pattern now associated with that food, or are we not able to eat what we need to eat when we need to eat it without a lot of weird consequences? So anyway, so I was saying compare that weird food thing you're doing. Like, because it's so weird, it gets your attention, right? Like, why am I eating bologna? Oh, some of the other, one of the other women said she was craving like the dirty chocolate, like the cheap, nasty chocolate, when normally she eats the very high grade, low sugar, premium chocolate. Lately, she's been wanting like the cheapo, dirty chocolate. Is that compare it? So just ask yourself, am I, is this in any way related to what I've been processing lately? Um, and if not, am I aware of turmoil in the world? Am I paying more attention to the news lately? Am I hearing a lot of people talk about a certain theme like sadness or anger or um, anything along those lines, any kind of strong emotion? Has there been a series of natural disasters that I'm aware of? And is this related? Your body will tell you. Yeah, you are eating like so much beef because you are processing energy for the collective and the world, and you need to be more physically grounded. Okay, so go ahead and eat a lot of cheeseburgers or whatever heavy food it is that you're grounding yourself with. It's cool to ask your body and then wait. And your body doesn't generally say, why, yes, Michelle, we're processing some events that happened in our childhood by eating Kentucky Fried Chicken. It doesn't say that. It will give you a symbol. It will bring up a memory, or it will give you an image or a remembrance of you being focused on a volcano blowing up or some other big world eye-catching event. And your body will let you know we're processing. So the other way this can show up is needing a lot of sleep or not sleeping at all. So one advantage of being underemployed for several years now is I have gotten to trust my sleep cycles. When I'm not sleeping, I'm going on 2 or 3 hours, which are, the field of therapy would diagnose as manic, and it's not manic. It's I don't need any sleep. So I'm in a creation mode and I'm creating and I'm creating and I'm not allowing my thoughts to bog me down. A lot of our need for sleep is when we're letting our thoughts bog us down and drain our energy, and we are, having to restore ourselves through sleep. But if you're monitoring your energy all day long and you're flowing and you're not giving your energy away to things that are out of alignment with what you're trying to achieve, you really don't need that much sleep. 2 to 5 hours, I can usually go for weeks as long as I'm monitoring my energy when I am awake. But then I'll notice that if some kind of wave is moving through the world, and you'll see those waves in your Facebook feed. Those of us who used to hang out on Periscope a lot would see a wave go through Periscope where all of a sudden the people who are talking about the same theme. It might be different details, but it's the same theme. And you'll see a wave go through your Facebook feed of one story or one theme is just all over your Facebook feed. And then if you're sensitive and you're meditating a lot, you can feel these different pockets of energy going on in the world. When something big happens, a war breaks out, um, a natural disaster happens, our energy goes there. If you're a person that processes for the collective, your energy really goes there, and you're holding space and you're processing the as much as you can. Like, you can't process pain, people's pain for them, but you can hold space. You can process with the earth. You can activate peace in your own body and offer that to the region. So there's all this stuff going on. So you may find that you can't stay awake because we do that work better when we're sleeping. We hold space for the collective better when our conscious mind is not involved, and we just knock ourselves out. And you might even feel knocked out. So that might be another time when you find yourself carb loading. You binging on carbs, like, I'm not binging in the clinical sense, but eating like a big bucket of ice cream or whatever, and then you're knocked out for 6 hours and you have weird dreams and you're processing stuff, or you wake up and you have all this information coming through like in a download. So that can be another food thing too. But you might find that just for several days you can't keep your eyes open. You get home from work and you fall asleep, and maybe you wake up and eat something and then you go right back to sleep. And you have trouble waking up during the day. On the weekend, you just can't find the energy to do anything. And you can just roll with that. I'll give you an example. So this has happened to me lots of times because I've worked in some very high intensity jobs. And in social work and in therapy, there's an enormous amount of paperwork, like so much paperwork, and it's very tedious. Nobody likes to do it. I learned back then that if I trusted my response to doing paperwork, that within a few days I would notice my paperwork stack and I would just find myself just doing it. And I could knock out 2 weeks worth of paperwork in a couple of hours. Whereas had I forced myself to do it, and my coworkers who would force themselves to do it, it would end up taking them so much longer. So it wasn't very efficient. But there were several of us that were like, just stack it up, put it to the side, trust yourself, you'll knock it out, go with your impulse. Another recent example is I had a lot of, this bear coming through, this black bear, and it got into my trash twice. It was the second time I put the trash out too soon. Anyway, the second time it pulls the bags up out of the can and like carries them over to the hillside dining room, the bear cafe, and takes its time, I guess, like sorting through and spreading out the trash. So there's a bag of trash with a debris field around it. And then a few feet away, there's another bag of trash with a debris field. I cannot tell you how I did not want to pick up that trash. It stunk. It had old cat food cans and dog food cans and old chicken things. Old chicken things like smell the worst. And I mean, it was just terrible. It was so terrible. And so I heard these voices in my head like, oh, you better pick up that trash, because it was where there's not that many people that come and go, but you could see it. Like, there's the road, there's the hillside, there's my house on the hillside. Here's these two like debris fields of garbage. And I couldn't make myself do it. And so I just didn't. And then when I went to pick it, and then yesterday, like, I was like, oh, I think I'll pick up that trash. So I just took some trash bags out. When I got to it, it had been there several days in the heat, and the ants had had a feast, and the worms had had a feast, and all kinds of little critters got to clean up the stinky parts of the trash, the things that they love. And there was no smell, and everything was dry. I got it picked up in like 2 minutes. It was awesome. You're late, Tina. Tina says she's late. So that's just like a numbskull example. But in your life, your body will tell you when it's time to do something and when it isn't. So I have a class going now, Human Design Basics for Business, and we're talking about that. Trusting your body. In human design, your mind is meant for possibilities, probabilities, inspiration, ideas, and that's all. It's meant to receive all this information. And then you're meant to sift and sort it using these methods in your body called authority, strategy, and authority, depending on your type. There's 5 types. But the bottom line decider is called your authority, and that's located in the body. It's sacral. For me, it's talking, so my voice. It's a yes no response in your gut. It's a this is okay, this is not okay in the spleen. It's located in the body. So if you are finding yourself eating lunch meat, dirty chocolate, Oreos, cheese quesadillas, or sleeping like weirdly, not sleeping at all, or really oversleeping, what you would define as oversleeping, ask yourself. We don't ask our body enough questions. We're not asking enough questions in general. But just ask your body, like, will eating these Oreos expand me or contract me? Is eating these Oreos really what I'm supposed to be doing right now? Is this in alignment with my goals? And feel for that body response. And you'll have to suss out the difference between a addictive craving versus a, yeah, this is something we need to eat right now, or yes, we really do need to sleep 20 hours right now. So you'll have to play with that for yourself, because we can trick ourselves. But generally speaking, if you're checking with your heart and you feel a sense of expansion, or you're checking with your gut and you're feeling a deep, solid, down in the belly, yes, eat the quesadilla. Because for days I was like, really, we're supposed to eat another quesadilla, another 2 quesadillas, and it was like, yeah, and no, no ill responses. So that's how, one way, unfortunately, that way you won't know until after you've done it, if you were fooling yourself. Because if you have a pretty negative reaction to it, probably it wasn't like a guided activity. It was more like an addictive craving. Is that making sense to you? Checking in with your body, asking lots of questions. Is it the right time? My body feels rejected and gaggy about picking up the trash. Is it okay to wait? Is it okay to just leave it there? Do I need to really beat myself up with what will the neighbors think, or what will the UPS person think if she's driving by and sees that trash on the hill? Who cares? I don't want to gag. I don't want to pick up trash when it's not time to pick up trash. I want to go in alignment with the ideal circumstances and the ideal timing for my life. And we're all unique that way. And if we'll start asking those questions, is it time to do the paperwork? When I go to do it, I feel, is it time to wash the dishes? Yeah, you just get up and do it. There's no argument. You just find yourself in motion. Is it time to make a Facebook group? I don't know. I should. My coach said I should. This marketing program I just bought says I should post on a schedule and do the things. But your body's like, just don't do it. We need to pay attention to that. And then later you'll find yourself just making a post that hits a nerve with people or gets response, and you see your sales go up. We've got to start paying attention, and here's why. Here's the bigger picture of this. If you follow human design or any other things, we're in this shift. I'll refer you to a good summary on this on the Facebook page, Human Design for Everyone. And it's run by Karen Curry Parker, who I'm getting my certifications through. Yeah, Tina says listening to your higher self, for sure. Asking questions. If we don't ask questions, all the parts of us that are smarter can't give us the answers, because you have to ask the question first. But in that program last week, so she does, if you go to that Facebook page, there's entries under the video tab called Quantum Alignment Show. The one she did this just past Friday, so whatever date that would be, it doesn't matter. This last Friday, she did a show on how our bodies are changing. We are in that energetic shift from one way of thinking to a different way of thinking. And this different way of thinking is much more holistic, it's much more in alignment with working with all the parts of us, not just our mind trying to do the things that the mind was never designed to do. Your mind was not designed to make decisions. Your mind was designed to receive knowledge and inspiration and thought that you then use as the raw materials, using your body as guidance for what to do with those thoughts and inspirations and how to do it based on your own system. Okay, so that stops us from flailing around and making a shit ton of mistakes and, stopping and starting and doing all these things that just bog us down and make life harder. Yeah, so when you put your mind in its rightful place as the receiver of thought and let it off the hook for making decisions, life gets a whole lot easier. And you can afford to trust your impulse to apply for that job or not, to make that Facebook post or not at that time. So maybe you still make the post, but you make it 3 days later when your ideal client happens to be scrolling Facebook at the time. You make that post when your whole group of ideal clients is scrolling Facebook at the time, and you get a class filled with 10 people rather than a class filled with no people or just one or two people. Okay, your body's telling you all the time. Yes, our mind was not meant to make decisions, so this isn't new, right? We have left ourselves these breadcrumbs of information and whole texts of information for thousands and thousands of years, right? The Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, the Bible. There's all these spiritual texts that have this information in it. We've been telling ourselves all this time, don't listen to your thoughts. Don't make decisions with your brain. Your brain's an idiot. Your brain's a receiver, not a decider. Your gut is the decider. Your heart is the decider. It's trusting it that's hard, of course, absolutely. So that's when we move into the area of it's our stories that keep us from trusting that our body knows what it's doing when it wants to eat a shit ton of Oreos for 3 weeks, or eat a bunch of quesadillas, or sleep an enormous amount. It's the stories that stop us. It's the mind in its wrongful state, its out of alignment state, that um, bogs down the river of pure intuition. It's us talking to ourselves and saying, no, that there's trash. You have to pick up the trash. Who doesn't pick up the trash? What kind of slacker just leaves trash laying on a hill for 3 days? This one. The one that did not want to have the negative experience of the smell and the slime of dirty trash and waited until it dried and everybody got to eat and then picked it up. So your voices will say, you can't eat lunch meat. What are you doing? You don't eat lunch meat. Yuck. Or you don't eat bacon. What's wrong with you? Bacon's bad for you. You don't even like bacon. Or you're on a diet. You can't eat ice cream. You're never going to get to your goal. You're never going to be healthy. You're going to have a heart attack. All the blah, 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 chatter, chatter, chatter. Right? That's where Janine Roth has made it her lifetime mission, and she's very good at it. Her books and programs are excellent at helping you hear that voice. Whether food is your issue or not, her materials help you learn to trust your body, because it's all about, if your body has a gag reflex, pay attention. If you're contemplating an idea, an inspiration that your mind received, and your body feels, ugh, You feel your shoulders like, ugh, somebody just yoked you with these heavy weights. Pay attention. Tina's saying, the more I'm listening to my body, the clearer the message from your ego stand out. Yes, that's why a daily practice of getting in touch with yourself help you hear the different parts of yourself, help you know when you've had a thought and you're about to take action and your body is saying, don't do it. Your body is telling you, stop. But the messages of stop and don't are so soft and subtle that until you spend time with yourself in silence, hearing the stories or the conditioning, hearing that you're doing things based on because your family always did it that way. I don't know if you guys, this is an old story, but there was like a little story going around that demonstrates how we just repeat behaviors without ever questioning them. So this man married his wife, and she would always make a roast on Wednesdays or whatever, and before she put the roast in the pan, she would chop off a big chunk of it and just do something else with it. And so finally her husband was like, why do you chop off a chunk of the end of the roast? And she was like, well, I don't know, my mom always did it. So then he went and asked her mom, why do you guys chop off the end of the roast before you put it in the pan? And the mom was like, well, I don't know, my mom always did it. So then they went and asked her mom, and she said, but I only had a little pan, so I had to chop the roast end off and use it for something else because it wouldn't fit in my tiny pan. That's all I had. That's how I mean, that's a ridiculous example, but it's how we pass behaviors and habits and attitudes down, and we just replicate them. We just repeat them. We don't ask why we do these things. My personal life example was our cultural tradition of eating cake at birthday parties. I don't like cake at all. And there's always had you heard it before? Have you guys heard the roasting pan story before? I mean, I've heard it in several places, but I haven't heard it lately. It's a good demonstration of how we do that. So we have a cultural tradition, at least in America, of having cake on birthday parties with the thick frosting. It makes me want to throw up. I don't like cake. But there's a lot of pressure to eat the damn cake, right? When you go to a birthday party, oh my God, the cake plate and the fork just gets shoved at you and shoved at you and shoved at you. So much pressure to eat cake. And I was 35 years old and I had quit eating sugar, period. Like I didn't eat sugar for 5 years straight. None. Not for any holiday, not for any reason. I didn't eat any. I want to get back to that with a little more flexibility. I was pretty rigid about it. But I was refusing the cake and people got pissed. Like literally mad. Like, why don't you want the cake? Why aren't you eating the cake? Quit being weird and just eat the cake. It's so and so's birthday. Eat the cake. And I'm like, I don't want the fucking cake. I don't even like cake. That's when it got really clear to me. Like, I've been eating cake all this time and I hate eating cake. I don't like it. And so I suffered. Like there was so much like social pressure. Now think about that social pressure and all the stories related to holidays and birthdays and doing what people tell you to do around cake, and apply that now to alcohol. Imagine what it's like for an alcoholic to have to go to a barbecue. They don't. Right? A lot of them don't when they're early in recovery because it's too hard to take the social pressure of how we pressure each other to put something in our body that's not in alignment with what we want. So yes, learning to trust the message that I don't want to eat cake. I don't like it. It's not good. It does not in alignment with my body. My body says no to the cake. And then on the days that you want to eat a hot dog and you check with yourself, like, do I want to eat a hot dog just because I like saw a commercial? or I remembered a time that I had a hot dog at a fair and it was such a fun day. Is that why I want to eat a hot dog? Or is my body saying, no, there is something in the hot dog that we need? Asking those questions, ferreting that out, listening to the stories that say, don't eat the hot dog. It's made out of scary things that are not actually food. And you have to challenge that. Yeah, but my gut feeling says it's okay. And I have a desire for it. And I've checked it out with myself, and I'm going to eat this hot dog. When you do it that way, you don't have the nasty physical results, or that's been my experience. Have you noticed lately? I have noticed that there's a trend now to have bars that don't serve alcohol. There's people waking up to how alcohol affects them, even if they're not all the way into alcoholic category, and they're deciding, I don't want to drink. And they're experiencing that social pressure and the stories of don't be an ass, just drink. Come on. The pressure for alcohol is far more than the pressure for cake, although they're both pretty strong. So there's bars out there now in the larger cities that don't have alcohol. What a cool thing happening in the collective, to people waking up to, I don't want to be numb right now. I want to be able to drink or not drink without the social peer pressure of affecting my choice, without these stories and these conditionings and these social modeling and patterns affecting my decision making. I feel like it's coming from a deep desire as a species for more freedom and more awareness and more awakeness. We want to be part of the tribe with freedom of choice. It's different to be part of a community out of choice than it is to be part of a community out of fear of survival. And that's what's changing. We're moving more into our heart-centered awareness. The union of, this is part of Forest Reiki too, is unionizing all the places and centering in the heart, letting the heart be like grand central station of your system. We're moving toward forming communities, forming groups and gatherings out of choice, out of love, out of resonance, out of common shared interests, out of goals. Because we have, Debbie says she's doing the dishes. Rather than because we have to gather in groups or we'll die. Because that's not the truth anymore, right? And that's where I feel like part of this collective transition is it's okay. We want to be awake. We want to be aware. Because how can we know what we want to choose if we're asleep, if we're anesthetized with too much sugar, too much chemicals, too much alcohol, too much weed, too much whatever, too much social media. So Michelle Shoemaker says she stopped drinking so much socially and discovered sparkling mineral water and flavored seltzer water. Absolutely. Club soda with lime is my favorite thing to get at a restaurant. Tina says, I watched a commercial last night that was basically shaming people who question the ingredients of hot dogs. How dare you? How dare you question the ingredients of hot dogs? You're going to impact the hot dog industry. The hot dog, what are those people called? Magnates. Magnates? Like an oil magnate? A tycoon? The hot dog tycoon? Whatever. If we will make our body the source of our decision making. It's the example I used or maybe I used it in the class. I might have got distracted. If you think of the world and life and all the energies as a buffet, you don't generally go to a buffet and eat all the things at the buffet, right? You generally go through and pick your favorites, and you only eat that. This is similar. We are becoming aware and more conscious and more open to, and actually, I think in some ways being compelled to open to awareness, because that's the next stage of our personal and collective evolution, is to be more aware and to be back reunited with the body. Um, we need to pick and choose. We need to be aware that the energies that we choose on a Monday might be different on a Wednesday, that we might be vegetarian for the whole month of May and be a steak hound for June. We Our old way is to declare things. I'm a vegetarian, and then to never eat meat, and then if we do eat meat because our body needs some extra protein, to shame ourselves, and then all our friends shame us, and then you're kicked out of the vegetarian club, and you're, all that crap, right? And it is crap. If you don't want meat today, don't eat meat. If you don't want meat tomorrow, don't eat meat. If you want a bologna sandwich on Thursday and you've checked it out with your system and your body, eat the bologna sandwich or two or three. If you never, ever, ever eat sugar and all of a sudden you have to have ice cream and you've done it, you've gone through the checking out, you've sat with it, you've made sure that it's not your mind doing a thing, it's not a memory driving a behavior, it's not social conditioning, it's not my family always eats ice cream on October 31st and therefore so must I. It's none of that. It's your body saying, go get this. Go get this. I'm doing a thing here. You don't need to worry about it. Just go eat this thing or take this nap or go call that person or go do the dishes or don't do the dishes. Okay. So listening for those impulses and not binding yourself to a bunch of rules that are made up in your head. It's okay for you to be vegan on Tuesday and have a steak on Saturday. It's okay for you to not eat bacon for 10 years and then suddenly eat a bunch of bacon if it's in alignment. It's okay if you do the dishes or don't do the dishes. It's okay if there's 4 loads of laundry piled in front of the machine, but your body is saying, go take a nap, go to sleep, go to meditate, go knit, go create a piece of art, go take a walk. Your mind will say, yeah, but there's 4 loads of laundry. It's okay. It can point out the obvious. It is Captain Obvious pointing out things like that. And what would your mother say? My mother would say, take the nap. Thank you for that, Mom. Our family has no shame about napping, thank God. um, but you know what I mean? So those are the small little micro things, and I believe they are directly connected to surviving all the big macro level shifts and changes that are happening. We'll trust our micro movements, our passage, our transition, our journey toward the larger cultural shifts and changes is so much smoother. And it ends up actually being more productive, and we can receive more abundance and we can receive more love and support if we slow down, remember we have a body, get down in there and ask it to make decisions. Check with it before moving. There's different shades of that when you get into human design, but this is true for anybody. Check with your body first. And then check, just ask those questions. Is this conditioning? Am I acting out a pattern? Do I want this thing because I'm addicted to the emotions that it creates? Like you might want sugar if you're addicted to being depressed and you're moving out of depression and being more happy and your body wants to go back to that familiar bad feeling. So there's nuances here. You can't just make a blanket statement about anything. Trust your body after you do, when you do all these things, when you ask all these questions, when you spend time with it and get to know its language of symbolism and sensation and emotion, imagery, drawing your attention to things outside yourself. There's all these subtleties of it. And in a way, you can think, well, that's a pain in the ass. I just want a yes, no. Well, you're not a kid anymore. You can handle complexity. You don't need to be told what to do. Your body will help you. Your higher self will help you. Your heart will help you. You don't need an instruction manual from outside to tell you all the rules so you can make sure you never break them, so you never piss anybody off and you never get in trouble and you never have to feel shame. Those days are over. We're independent beings. And we're becoming more independent. We're becoming more awake. And in my opinion, these things that we're experiencing that are so curious is a part of that. And we need to trust it, pay attention to it, follow it. If we want to bottom line anything, it's the experience of joy expanding in your heart. It's the experience of that inclusive but impersonal love. You're including the entire world in the love of your heart, but you're impersonal with what they do with it. You don't have an investment that they take your love and then everybody has to experience peace. You're letting go of that. You're bringing that energy in, expanding it through your whole system, letting your body guide you through the maze, and you're radiating that out to the world, and whoever's available for it can receive it. And what a gift. What a gift you are when you let yourself be happy. What a gift you are when you let yourself trust that you know already what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. And far more of your life should feel like love and expansion and creativity and laughter and joy. That should be the overwhelming percentage of your daily life. Not 50-50, not 75-25. My mom was saying she went to an Abraham thing, and I think Esther Hicks said 99% to 1%. Like she said, contrast should be the tiniest little sliver of your experience. Your overwhelming percentage of your day should feel really damn good. And if it's not, start there. Start asking those questions. How can I increase joy? How can I attune myself like a tuning fork to the energy of joy and acceptance and freedom and that impersonal love? Impersonal love to me is the best kind because it's unconditional. There's no strings attached. You're loving and radiating love because that's what's best for you. Not because you're trying to save the world. The world doesn't need saving. Not because you're trying to save a relationship, because your relationships don't need saving either. The people around you don't need you to save them. In fact, trying to save them inhibits their own growth and their own process and can really bog things down. You amplify the joy and you amplify the love and you amplify the awareness for yourself. And then everybody else gets to benefit from that. Does that make sense to you? My hope is that you've had times in your life where things were flowing and you were focused more on joy than on politics. We don't need to turn a blind eye, but go get your information and then make your decision based on your body and all the things that are right for you, and leave it at that. Nobody needs all day CNN updates. Tina says, you just make sense. Some days. Some days. Not every day. Okay, so I don't know how long I've been. Oh my gosh, I've been talking for 53 minutes. What? I was like, surely we're at the 30-minute mark by now, and I should probably stop talking. Nope, we've almost talked for an hour. I gotta go. I got some other stuff to do. All right. Subscribe and share, please. Find me on the website if you want more, if you want to work with me one-on-one or join one of my classes or groups. Sovereign Storytellers opens for enrollment again in July. I'm really hoping for a larger group. I've got Heather Westmoreland who's co-facilitating that with me so we can hold space for 25 to 30 and everybody still get the individual attention that they're used to. If you want a human design reading, that's all on the website, thatmichellewolf.com. I'm over on Facebook, that Michelle Wolf, facebook.com, thatmichellewolf. And then the podcast every week. Sovereign Storytellers is on all the podcast players out there. Although I hear that iTunes doesn't have all the episodes. So check out Stitcher or Podbean or some other. There's 31. The 31st episode was recorded yesterday and scheduled for Thursday or Friday, I forget. All right, have whatever day you want to have. Go explore the messages coming from your body and let your mind off the hook from trying to figure out how to make decisions because it's just not capable. Talk to you later. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.